Welcome back to a continuation of the 3 and D podcast's segments for the day. As the playoffs are around the corner, we wanted to get our Eastern Conference and Western Conference predictions in. You saw the Eastern Conference video earlier, so let's get on to the West as well as the finals discussion. With myself and Gabe here, we're going to give our predictions and run down what we think is going to happen and how the Western Conference is going to play out. This is an interesting conference because there's a lot of teams and a lot of ability for, I guess, debate and a lot of different opinions on who we think is going to move forward. So, Gabe, why don't we start with the 1-8 series? It's
Sure.
going to be Phoenix versus either the Pelicans or the Clippers. We don't know that yet because as of this recording, the playing game has not taken place.
Yep.
But honestly, let's be real, it doesn't matter
Well,
who
I
who
mean,
wins.
Zion could be
Stop.
a real X factor. He looks
Zion's
in
not even
great shape,
playing. He's not even
but
playing, man.
yeah, Phoenix in 5 on the Clippers. They probably sweep the Pelicans. Although I
I
think the
got Phoenix.
Pelicans are an up and coming team for the next couple of years to come. But yeah, I think Phoenix is just that much better. They have the best point differential in the NBA. Their home and road record is 32-9 on both ends. Like they've just been a dominant team. They've kind of been in cruise control the last little bit. So I think they'll dispose of whoever gets the 8 seed pretty quickly, and then yeah, prepare for the next series.
Yeah, you
Not
touched
much
on
more to
it.
add. Yeah.
I got Phoenix in 4, highest net rating in the league, fifth in offensive rating, third in defensive rating. They're top 5 in both. So that's usually a team. That's usually a recipe for major success, NBA Finals, NBA championship type level of success. So Phoenix in 4, doesn't matter who they play. They're gonna sweep both of these teams. Let's move on.
Okay.
Memphis and Minnesota in the first round, the 2 and 7. You go first because I'm already waiting for something crazy. So you go first.
Wolves in 6.
Wolves in
Um, you
6.
know what? I've just been thinking about this holistically, and in the NBA, there's more parity now than there's ever been in the league in a long time. And upsets have to come here and there, and I think this is an upset spelling series because I don't think on paper, on a player by player basis, the T Wolves are that much worse than the Grizzlies. And postseason basketball is a completely different thing, given that they're both new. So to me, I think it's a wild card here, but I would not be shocked. And I think I like the way Minnesota stacks up, mainly because I think Karl Anthony Towns has the potential to be the swing person in the series. Because Memphis can't necessarily deal with a guy like that who's that skilled on offense and can be that dominant.
You know
And
Memphis has Jaren Jackson Jr., right?
I am
A
aware who he
defensive
is.
player of the year candidate.
Candidate.
Candidate. Who's going to be guarding Cat.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Continue.
It's
Just wanted to add that in.
playoff inexperience. I think this is a real wild card series. I saw Patrick Beverly and the team's energy after winning the play-in game. I think Minnesota's ready to do some damage, and I feel like they were sort of that team that was supposed to be up and coming before all these other guys because they always had the high draft picks, and it didn't really work out with Wiggins, didn't work out with Karl Anthony Towns, and I'm kind of actually excited to see them play in the play-in, or like see them play in the playoffs after the play-in game, and I'm just not the biggest believer in the Grizzlies. I think playoff basketball is different. They're going to slow the game down, like we'll see. And I don't think like their depth, I know we were mentioning in other series where the depth might help out, but now it's going to be like okay, Memphis is going to have to really tighten their rotation, how players' egos get involved because they usually play all 10 guys on their roster, and they won't be able to play the same way they did in the regular season. So yeah, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here that the Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round.
Okay, so I feel like we don't have our cameras on, so we can't see each other. So,
Not
sometimes I feel like
smiling at all.
you're smiling while you're saying this. There's no way you're saying this with a straight face. There's absolutely no chance that you genuinely. There's just no way you're trolling right now. Memphis is winning the series in 5 games.
I don't think Memphis is that good, and you'll see it in the playoffs. You'll see it. I don't think they're that good.
Memphis in 5. Minnesota gets 1 game where Anthony Edwards, and Cat get hot. Memphis takes their foot off the gas. They're still dealing with like learning the game a little bit, learning the way playoff basketball is played. I mean, we're talking about experience. Both of these teams have one playoff series of experience under their belt in terms of their key guys. Memphis from last year and Minnesota from like a few years ago when they got destroyed by Houston. So the playoff experience factor is kind of a
It's a
wash.
wash. Yep.
Memphis has the fifth best net rating in the league. They're fourth in offensive rating, sixth in defensive rating, so they're almost top 5 in both, just like Phoenix.
Yep.
Those numbers might even be better if Ja didn't miss 25% of the season. They play at the fourth highest pace in the league. They
That will
lead the
matter.
league. That will matter. That'll matter. They'll have to learn to play a little bit slower. I agree. They lead the league in fast break points. Ja leads the league in points in the paint. That's a point guard leading the league in points in the paint. He's literally unguardable in the paint. There's nothing you can do to stop him. And he gets to the paint at will. And they have Patrick Beverly, who's going to get in foul trouble guarding Ja, or going to try to injure him. That's the only way they have any chance. Patrick Beverly's a dirty player.
He
No,
tried that with Steph.
he tries that with everyone. Pat Beverly tries that with everyone,
I
trying
think he's
to.
an underrated leader, but okay.
I think he's a dirty player.
That's just
Memphis
choice of
also
words.
Memphis Memphis also leads the league in second chance points per game. They lead the league in paint points per game, and they also have one of the best benches in the league.
A lot of
So
that's to do with the high pace they play in, especially with second chance points. I think it's going to be much different in the playoffs.
I don't think I think Cat having to deal with Steven Adams on the glass, plus
Ooh.
Brandon Clark, plus Jaren Jackson Jr. That's gonna take a toll. Like he's gonna have to fight to keep these guys off the glass. Memphis got the size advantage. Memphis has got the best player in the series. Memphis got the deeper team in the series. They're the better defending team in the series. They're the better offensive team in the series. I just don't see any argument for Minnesota taking more than one game off of Memphis, other than Memphis just like giving them a game and being like, oh yeah, we kind of screwed up. It's like 2-0 and Minnesota gets one, goes to 2-1, and then Memphis like, all right, let's stop messing around. Memphis wins game three or game four, it's up 3-1, and this is game over. So for me, Memphis in five. You can believe whatever you want about Minnesota and Memphis not being that good. We'll just have to see what we see because I cannot figure out how Minnesota has a chance in this series.
When it happens,
Hey,
congratulate me.
I'll be the first to give you credit if this happens because I genuinely think there's a 0% chance in this series of Minnesota beating them. 0%,
Okay.
unless Patrick Beverly injures Ja. Minnesota has a chance, but that's the only way, and that's because Beverly's a dirty player. So I just want that on the record.
Opportunistic player.
Dirty. You call it opportunity, I call it dirty. Potato potato. All
Okay.
right, let's move on to the 3-6 series. Golden State and Denver.
hmm
What do you got?
Nuggets in 7.
Oh my God.
So I don't think the Warriors are as good as everybody makes them seem. And even with Draymond's recent comments, and they've really, I don't think Draymond's really focused on basketball too much. And with all this LeBron drama in the background, who we'd like to play with, like you see, they're all on social media, on regular media, podcasts, joking
Yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah. Like Draymond's like transitioning almost
I
to
don't
like
think
a
the
different group.
Warriors. I think a lot of people are thinking these are the pre KD Warriors 73-9 in 2015, and I don't think they're that much better above the pack. And I think Denver has the best player in the series by a mile. Like we could say Steph Curry. Steph Curry still hasn't come back yet. He's expected to be back for Game 1, but he's coming back injured with his foot injury. Now we could say he's been resting fine because he didn't necessarily need him back before the playoffs started. But he won't be 100%. And I think Nikola Jokic is that much of a problem that I think Denver can actually really put up a fight here and catch Golden State when they're sleeping.
Okay, so I think the Warriors win in six. Jokic wins Denver 2 games by himself. That's how good Jokic is. That is, he's. I actually agree with you that I don't know if he's better than Steph, but I do. Okay,
Current
yeah,
Jokic is
this
better than
current
coming off
current
of injury
Jokic,
Steph.
current Jokic is the best player in the series. And but my strategy if I was Golden State would be different. My strategy would be go let Jokic get his. Let him go and score 50 points or 60 points or whatever he needs to score and stay home on the rest of the team. You're right. Golden State can't guard Jokic. Draymond Green has no chance at guarding Jokic. As good of a defender as Draymond thinks he is, the height difference
So
is too big. Jokic is too skilled and he's too smart. It's not going to happen.
So I don't think Draymond Green's that good at basketball anymore.
I still think
He's
he can
old.
guard.
He's
I still
slow. Mm.
I still think he can guard because he's smart. But the problem is
Jokic is
Jokic
smarter than him.
is smart. Yeah, exactly. So I agree with that, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think Draymond Green has a chance in the series regarding Jokic, which is why Golden State should just say, Jokic, go and put up 60 points per game. If you beat us putting 60 points per game in a 7 game series, we'll tip our hat to you. But we don't think you can do that because that's going to take a ton out of Jokic. And we look at Jokic, he doesn't look like he's in the best shape in the world. That might just be his body type, but that's going to be going against him for sure in the playoffs when every possession becomes more impactful. You have to give more energy on every single possession. And if I'm Golden State, one, I let him go get his, and two, I try to push the pace, make him run,
But the
make him
thing
work.
is, even if he like by go get his, you mean he scores the buckets.
He scores the buckets.
Okay,
Take
I
his
think he's
facilitating and his
too good of
playmaking
a
out of the game.
passer. I think he's too good of a facilitator for you to dictate to him like, okay, we're gonna like lock everybody else up. I think he's too crafty and he will dictate that offense.
No, I'm so if you just stay, if you just stay at home on the other guys, like you single guard, you give Jokic single coverage the whole
Hmm.
series. Just if it's Draymond or Kevon Looney or if I don't know if Wise I don't think Wiseman's coming back, so let's assume he's not back. But
He'll make him pay.
he'll make him sure. Let him make him pay. One
Like you,
guy's not
you
going to
even
beat you.
said, he has Shaq level efficiency shooting from two.
I agree, and it's not enough because Jokic will not be able to carry that much of a load for an entire 7 game series. He will get
It,
tired. He
it'll
will.
go in six.
It'll get.
Change that.
Okay, fine. I have Golden State in 6, so
Okay.
even if it goes 6, he can't do it. And that's what I think. Like he can get him 2 games because he's that good, and that would be my strategy from Golden State. Let him try to beat you by himself. Take his passing, his playmaking out of the game. I get what you're saying that it's too hard to dictate for a guy that's that good. Just stay home.
Like if he,
Give him single coverage the whole series.
but even if you do that, he'll still facilitate and do his thing.
Right,
Like
but
he is that
in that
good.
case, no, but that's playing into Golden State's hand though. Like if he's still trying to facilitate when you're staying at home on the other guys, that's gonna drop the other guys' efficiencies because they're just not as good like offensively as he is. So now if he's still trying to facilitate and play make while he's getting single coverage the entire series, that means all the other guys are also being guarded, which means they have to score contested buckets or on a
That
defense that's
that's
set
not
up to stop
necessarily
them.
true. That's if it's like a scripted pass, getting everyone involved. He is a different type of passer where he does all the flashy no looks, gets the guy wide open. Like he is just difficult to read, and I don't think Golden State can defend him.
I agree with that. I do, but I don't think it's enough. I just don't think that the rest of that Denver roster is good enough to win 4 times out of 7 against a team. I agree with you that I don't think Golden State's as good as everybody makes them out to be, and
I think they're much worse. Like people
that
still think of these guys as like a one seed.
yeah, and that'll be evident when we do our next round. But um, I just think Golden State's too good top to bottom for a team. Now, if Denver had Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., we might be this might be a different outcome, but a different discussion altogether. But I just don't think the rest of that roster is good enough for Jokic to carry them. Jokic gets 2 games on his own. For
Like
me, Steph,
Like
Steph,
I know
Clay.
people have made the comps that Luca could have like a LeBron-esque season and carry garbage to the finals. I think that can be easily in play for Nikola Jokic more than Luca.
I don't think this team. He can't get this team to the finals. Luca still has like Jalen Brunson, who's averaging almost 20 a game, who's probably better than everybody on Denver's roster in terms of like except for Jokic,
Yeah, but that's
excluding
because of the
Murray
opportunity like
and
that he's
Michael Porter
had. Like
Jr.
Jalen Brunson is not the great player.
He's not by any means. He's not a great player, but he's better than every. That's what I'm saying. Denver's roster around Jokic right now, with with Murray and Porter Jr. missing, is just terrible. It's a bad roster, and which is why I don't think they can win. This is not taken away from Jokic. Jokic is great. Golden State's just too deep compared to this roster. They're too good, too talented. They're gonna push the pace. They're gonna tire Jokic out. That's the strategy that they're gonna use because that's what I would do if I saw a guy that's not in shape. I would say you try to run with us for 7 games or 6 games or however long the series goes. At some point he's gonna get fatigued. So for me, Golden State in 6. I just don't think Denver's good enough. And if we want to get into like the statistics of it, just before we move on to the next series, Golden State's got the fourth highest net rating in the league. They're the second highest defensive rating in the league. Their offensive rating is bad. It's 16th. So they're actually a subpar offensive team, which I think will go against them, especially because Jokic is unguardable in the series. So their defensive rating might not matter as much. But that shows that, again, going back to the strategy of let Jokic get his and guard everybody else, they're more than capable of doing that with the pieces that they have. And I also think that their offensive rating is kind of underrated with all the injuries they've had all year. Clay came back midway through the year. Draymond Green pretty much came out of the lineup as soon as Clay came back. And Draymond's not a good offensive player, but he is a good offensive facilitator for that system. It's pretty clear when he plays and when Steph plays. Steph's numbers are much better when Draymond plays versus when Draymond doesn't play. And now they've had Steph missing for the last month or so. So I do think their offensive rating is a little underrated. They're a better offensive team than the numbers would suggest. And we'll find out once the playoffs start when they have hopefully all their guys healthy again. Like you said, Steph is still like he's targeting game one, but we don't
Mm-hmm.
know for sure if he's going to be back. But my assumption is he plays the series. My Golden State Warriors in six, like that. My prediction there is assuming Steph plays. If he doesn't play, then yeah, it could change. That assumption might not hold true, but assuming he does play, I have the Warriors winning this series.
Okay.
All right, Dallas and Utah, another good series in round one. Another series that's gonna be predicated on health. So why don't you go first?
Jazz in 5. I don't think Luka's
Wow.
close to coming back.
Okay, okay, that's why you think Luka doesn't play at all.
Um, I don't think he will, and the problem is I think the Jazz are lucky to be in the 5th seed now, especially when they know Luka's missing games. So that way is all you need to really do is take one in Dallas, and then you get two at home right away. So I think
Yeah,
if this was the case, like I'd rather be the team that plays home second, especially if they actually think Luka's coming back. But even if he does come back, like if he's already ruled out a game, they're probably going to let Luka Doncic play when he's 80% or 75%, right? But he's not even at that point to be like, okay, he can play game one. Like he's not going to be coming back at 100%.
I get what you're saying. Even when he plays, he's gonna be very limited than when he
Exactly.
does.
So that
Right.
that makes
Okay.
me think he's actually far from coming back at full
So
strength.
yeah. So my prediction is my original prediction was Dallas in six, but that was assuming Luka's healthy.
Hmm.
Based on what you're saying, I think you're right. I think Luka isn't gonna come back, and even when he does come back, he won't be the Luka that we're accustomed to seeing just because he'll be hurt, and that will be a huge factor for Dallas. So I think you've convinced me that Utah wins this series, probably in six. I think Dallas gets a game or two. I think Dallas gets one game. They steal one without Luka, or like with Luka at like 50%, and then Luka gets better and they get another game. But
Yep.
I think you're right. You actually made me switch my pick. I'm gonna go Utah in six.
Yeah,
Just because
because I don't
this
think
injury
he's
is bad.
coming back. And even if he was like, let's say 75%, I think he would play through it if it was a playoff game. The fact that they've already
Right.
ruled him out, I think he's closer to like less than 50%.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the fact that he's being ruled out so early is a really bad sign for Dallas, and they are in trouble. They have
Hmm.
no chance without Luca. So, okay, you convinced me. Utah in. I had six. You have five. We
Yeah.
both agreed Utah moves on. So let's get to the second round. The first series is going to be Phoenix versus Utah.
Hmm.
What you got?
I think this is going to be an exciting series. I think the Jazz beat them in 7.
Oh my god. I
I
need
don't
your
know
camera on
why
again.
you
I need to
hate
see
the
firsthand.
Jazz so
I don't hate
much.
the Jazz. Phoenix is so much better than Utah. I don't hate them. Phoenix is the best team in the NBA.
The Jazz also have a net rating of second best net rating in the West. Let's
Third.
not. Is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
third?
Third in the
Yeah,
league, second in the
yeah,
West.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's right. They're
Deserve a lot
behind
of credit
only
for
three.
that. They have arguably one of the defensive player of the year candidates as well.
So does Phoenix. Like, hold on. You're saying they have the third best net rating in the league? Yeah. You know who has the first best net rating in
Yeah,
the league?
I'm aware, but
Phoenix.
you're making
The
it
team
sound
they're
like this
going
isn't
against.
even a close series.
It's not. Phoenix is gonna win in five. Phoenix is gonna win the series in 5 games.
I mean, the Suns are just
It's not.
they're
It's
not
not a close
exciting. Like,
series. Look, Mikal Bridges is gonna lock up Mitchell. Rudy Gobert is not an offensive threat, so Rudy Gobert is gonna spend all his time trying to protect the paint and stop DeAndre Ayton from being Phoenix's X
I
factor.
mean, if we're gonna go like paper by paper, yeah, Phoenix is better than every other team in the West. I'm just saying I don't believe the Suns are a kind of team that goes back to the finals in back-to-back years. Like they just don't excite me that much. Like they're gonna slip somewhere, and what better place to do it than Utah?
Okay, okay. No,
So this
if
Jazz
you're going with
team,
your gut on this pick, fine. I mean, you're entitled to your pick going off your gut. Phoenix the better team.
I am. They had Utah has more continuity than Phoenix does.
They
They've
don't even
been
like each other. Utah does
that
not
that's
like each other.
that you can't prove that. That is
Yes,
just
I
how
can.
that's how you feel about the situation.
No, no,
That's how other
no, no,
people have
no.
wrote about it.
Stop, stop. No,
This
I can
team
prove
has
that.
been together longer than the Suns. They've underachieved in the postseason longer. Let's not forget the Suns were nobodies before last year.
Gabe. Hold on, hold on. Wait. I want to make one thing clear.
Sure,
I can prove that they don't like each other.
prove it.
Donovan Mitchell averages 2 passes per game to Rudy Gobert,
Rudy
which is the
Gobert is
low.
not in the offensive scheme. That's all that proves.
Which well, wait, there's video footage of like Rudy Gobert having his guy absolutely pinned under the basket on a switch. Like the guy guarding Gobert is like 6'5". He's a
Hmm.
guard or a wing.
Yep.
Rudy Gobert has him buried under the basket. Donovan Mitchell has the ball at the 3-point line. He looks at him, fakes a pass to him, looks him off, waits until Rudy Gobert has to get out of the paint to avoid a three in the key.
Hmm.
Gobert gets pissed about it, and then Donovan Mitchell goes on to run an offense himself
All right.
and
In that
isolate.
particular game, there was that issue.
Gabe, this is not a one-off instance. This is a recurring. They don't like each other. And that will rear its head in the playoffs once they get into a series.
Did Kobe and Shaq like each other?
They pass each other the ball though. They don't need to like each other. They gave each other the ball. Kobe and Shaq shared the spotlight in terms of both got their numbers. And Rudy Gobert is not Shaq,
Yeah,
and
he's
Donovan
humble. He
Mitchell is
doesn't need his
not
numbers.
Kobe. Donovan Mitchell's not Kobe, and Rudy Gobert is not Shaq. Neither are the offensive weapons that the first two guys are. That's not that's not a good comp.
Well, you're just saying it's they don't like each other. That's the biggest deal. Well, yeah, like Kobe and Shaq didn't like each other. They've actually said that. I haven't
Yeah.
heard Donovan Mitchell say I don't like Rudy Gobert. I've heard he was upset with the whole COVID situation, but
Okay, fine.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead with with whatever else you were gonna say about Utah before they
I'm
lose
just
to
looking
me.
at a perspective of do I think Phoenix is a team that can go because nobody ever goes back to back into the finals unless you're like a LeBron team or a super team. Like there's so much parity in the NBA now. Uh,
Yeah.
I think Phoenix slips up.
Okay. That's a reasonable. Actually, I can't
Doesn't
even.
have to
You
be
know what?
reasonable.
I
That's just
can't
my
even justify
prediction
that
pick.
that's reasonable. Fine, that's your prediction. I
Yeah.
respect it. But for me, it's so hard to choose against Phoenix in like any of these against any of these teams, just because of how good Phoenix has been all year. They're
All regular
healthy.
season, yes.
They're healthy going into the playoffs. They're better this year than they were last year, and last year they went to the finals. And
Some would say they've peaked early.
maybe, maybe, but I wouldn't bet on that, and I wouldn't make a prediction. I definitely wouldn't make a prediction on that. So for me, Phoenix in five. Utah gets one because Phoenix just lets off the gas, and Utah's desperate for a game, and Phoenix closes them out. Like the Phoenix is. Listen, this isn't an indictment on Utah. This is not about my feelings for Utah. This is just Phoenix. Phoenix would do this to whoever they were playing. It
What if the
doesn't matter who
Clippers
they
give them
play.
trouble in the first round? Would you at least be shaky about the Suns?
It would change my opinion on how dominant they are, but I would still pick them over Utah.
Okay.
But yes, it would maybe it would change maybe my pick from like 5 to 6 or 7.
Okay.
But
No, that's fine.
the, not neither the Pelicans nor the Clippers really should give like that should be a sweep, regardless of which team they play. Phoenix should be sweeping
Well,
both the Pelicans or the
Clippers.
Clippers.
Phoenix pretty much played the Clippers last year without Kawhi, right?
Yes, they
Paul
played the
George did a
Lakers in the
decent
first
job
round.
holding his own.
Yeah, but Paul George is also coming off injury. That's
Oh, he's
why.
back.
He's back. Yeah. He played well in the playing game. I saw
Yeah.
that. He is back, but he doesn't have a full season under his belt. He doesn't. I don't know what his conditioning is like. There's no way to test your playoff conditioning, and it's even harder to know what type of shape you're in when you haven't even had like a full regular season under your belt, or even like how long has he been back? A couple weeks? I don't even know how
Yeah,
long
it's
he's
been a
been
couple
back.
weeks.
Okay, so he does have some sort of game time
Like
under
I
his
think he's
belt.
basketball in basketball. He's had time to get into basketball shape.
Yeah, And I also think that Mikal Bridges is a significantly improved defender. Some people have Mikal Bridges as their defensive player of the year. And that is a nightmare for all the wing players in the West that are going to have to go against him. When you have DeAndre Ayton on the back line, Mikal Bridges on your front line, you have Jay Crowder, another good wing defender there. Um, Phoenix is just deep.
Jay
They're a really
Crowder.
good. Yeah, I mean, like, sure, he might not be the best defender in the world, but he's annoying to deal with. He's big, physical, strong, tries to get in your head, talks a lot
He
of
is a
shit.
postseason loser.
Fine, but he doesn't need to be. Like he's not like a difference maker in the sense that he's you're gonna credit your winning to Jay Crowder and you're gonna credit your losing to Jay
Yeah,
Crowder. Like
then you didn't have to mention that they have Jay Crowder.
no, it's someone that Paul George is gonna have to deal with. That's gonna be annoying to deal with. It's gonna someone that's gonna make Paul George's life more difficult than it needs to be. Which is why I don't anticipate any of these teams, like whether it's the Pelicans or the Clippers or even Utah, giving Phoenix any trouble. Phoenix just is too well equipped to deal with whatever team comes their way, and that's going to be consistent in my bracket throughout. This has nothing to do with Utah. In my original pick, when I had Dallas winning against Utah, if Luka's healthy, I still have Phoenix beating Dallas in five.
Okay.
They're just so much better than everyone else. So for me, Phoenix, whether it's Dallas or Utah, it doesn't matter. Phoenix is going to win that second round in five. They're just too good, too dominant. As long as they're healthy, and we know Chris Paul has issues with getting injured in the playoffs. So let's see.
Yep.
That's one thing that could derail them if CP gets hurt. I think last year was the first time in the playoff that he didn't really. I mean, he still had that shoulder injury in the first round against the Lakers, but
Yep.
they got through. So let's see. Assuming they're healthy, which at this point they are, so that's not an unreasonable assumption. I have Phoenix winning that second round in five in this case against Utah. So let's move on to the other series, which I think you're going to have a fun time picking as well. You have a lot of upsets in this on the Western Conference side.
Yes,
Golden State
sir.
and Memphis. Oh, you have Denver and Memphis, right?
Minnesota and Denver.
Oh my God, you have
It's like,
Denver, Minnesota.
oh
Okay.
yeah, 6, 7.
All right, this
Was
is
that
easy
six
then.
three, six? No,
6-7.
yeah, 6, 7.
Yeah, the 6 seed, 7 seed.
I think the Joker's
Okay.
gonna. He's ready to break the NBA this year. I think
Okay,
Denver
I
takes
agree.
them in 6.
Yeah, so if I had Denver, if I had your bracket, Denver, Minnesota, I would pick Denver as well.
Like I've even seen how, like you could say Carl Anthony Towns is a big guy. Jokic backs this guy up like he's nothing going to
Oh,
the rim.
Jokic will demolish Towns.
Yeah,
They're not in the same realm.
yeah.
There's nobody in the league who could guard Jokic, I would say, except for maybe Giannis. And even then, I still think Jokic like outskills
He would
Giannis.
he would get him to foul him.
Yeah, like he would use his IQ to find an advantage on Giannis that he could take advantage of.
Yep.
So Jokic is just he's different. He's weirdly good. Like he's a guy who should when you look at him shouldn't be as good as he is, but he's just better than everyone else. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I would have Denver beating Minnesota as well. On my bracket, I have neither of those teams. Wait, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Denver, Minnesota?
No, I think it'd just be a nice sight for fresh air to see. Lower seeds go through. These are like two up and well, Denver I think is already an established team. They just have
Tough year for them.
yeah, they have a lot of players missing, but we know what Denver does, how they play. Like there's
Right.
not that much room for growth. Minnesota, on the other hand, would probably be the real wild card here, where like Anthony Edwards looks like he's getting into his own. Carl Anthony Towns is an elite big man, nonetheless. He's still all NBA worthy,
Yep.
and I think D'Angelo Russell also isn't that bad of a second guard on the team. As bad as people say he was for like Lakers culture, I think there's something wrong with the Lakers altogether. But even when he went to that Brooklyn team, he led them to the playoffs as well before Kevin Durant went there and they sent everybody away. And yeah, he's at the point where he's like a veteran now in the league, coming of age. So I think yeah, Minnesota makes it competitive. But other than that, I still think Denver moves past them to play Utah in the finals, Western Finals.
Oh my God. Okay. So I have I can't even take your bracket seriously. I have Golden State and Memphis in my bracket on the other
Hmm.
side. I have Memphis in 7, and that's the pick I made earlier in the year when we did this, and I'm still sticking with that pick. And part of that is because I just don't think Golden State's that good, like you said.
Hmm.
I think people overrate Golden State a little bit, and I think Memphis is this year's Cinderella team. Like they're the team with a top 10 player ish on their roster and just a whole bunch of great pieces around them with no other like top 40 player on that roster. That but the way they've built that roster, and some of it is
You
obviously
wouldn't
down
put
to
Jaren Jackson at top 40?
I don't think Jaren Jackson's a top 40 player. I mean, it's debatable. Maybe he's a
Not like
top 40 player.
skilled guard, ball handle wise, just like stats wise.
It's debatable. You could make a case that he's top 40, but it's not like I would say it's not like clear cut. It's not like
Sure.
if I say, oh, he's not top 40, I don't get like laughed out of the room that like, wow, how could you even say something so stupid, right? So I think it's debatable. He could be top 40, but it's not clear. They don't
Yeah,
have a
that's fine.
clear cut like top 40 player in the league as a second piece. And they really put together a roster that fits really well together. Some of that might be by fluke or not.
Hmm.
Um, this is their year though to make a run. They had that first round exit last year. They got a little bit of experience under their belt. Ja really took like a big leap this year. Kind of started to enter that like MVP level type talent and being in
Yep.
the MVP consideration. And I think Golden State has a hard time keeping him out of the paint, especially with Clay not really being the defender that he was. Steph Curry's never been a great defender, underrated defender. I actually think Steph Curry doesn't get enough credit on defense, but he's not going to be able to keep Ja out of the paint,
Yep.
and that's where Ja excels. And then you have no size. Golden State has absolutely no size on their front line with Draymond and Kevon Looney being their centers. Like that's like what 6'7", 6'6" is their center. Maybe Kevon Looney might be like 6'9". They're really lacking in size, and Ja excels in the paint. I think that's a terrible matchup for Golden State in terms of trying to keep Ja out of the paint. And you could say that they rely a lot on Memphis relies a lot on like transition offense and stuff like that. If you can't keep Ja out of the paint, they don't need transition offense.
No,
Ja
I
can
agree
get
with
by.
that.
Ja can get by their wing guys no problem. Andrew Wiggins is probably who I would have matching up with Ja just to try to put some size on him and make it a little bit difficult. But Andrew Wiggins is not the quickest guy on his feet. He's also not the strongest guy, and it's going to be hard for him to one be physical with Ja, and then two keep him out of the paint. And if they can't do that, they're in trouble. So I think Memphis figures that out, and Memphis is equipped to guard, play defense. Like I said, I think they're fourth in the league, no, sixth in the league in defensive rating, and then fourth in offensive rating. So they're the whole package, and they take out the seasoned vets at Golden State and sort of make a name for themselves this year, moving on to the Western Conference Finals against Phoenix. So let's do
Okay.
your Western Conference Finals first, because yours is an interesting one. You have Utah and Denver, I think. Is that
I
right?
do, yeah.
Okay. And you got, let me guess, you got
This should be a
Jokic
good guess.
pointing the way. You got Jokic destroying the NBA and carrying that Denver team to the finals. Is that right?
No, I have him losing.
You have him losing. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is where being in shape kind of matters.
Okay.
like,
You think Rudy Gobert slows him down?
yeah, well, just, like you've already played 2 series in. Let's say you've played 20 games or so of physical basketball, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to be asked to do a lot. And I think Rudy Gobert is at least somebody size wise who's taller than him, bigger than him, and annoying to defend towards the paint. Like I don't think he'll be having those elite numbers inside of 2 on him, and he's gonna have to really rely on his teammates more or get
Yeah.
a craftier way of how to actually figure it out because Utah's a good paint defending team, and I think that's going to be a problem for Denver if they don't have those easy buckets, those easy outlets to get those points.
Right.
And I just think the Utah, that Utah Dallas series, if they can dispose of them quickly, I like the Utah side of the bracket. And in order to go to the final, somebody has to beat Phoenix, right?
Right.
So even if they're on the other side of the bracket, I would have had them playing in the Western Conference Finals or the second round. But yeah, I just think the Jazz, deal with the least amount of injuries. They don't really have any pressure. And all around as a team, they have the continuity there. And I don't think you really have to be anything special to come out of the West. And if they matched up with Denver, well, it's an interesting series because they're both hard places to play. They both have. I know the Jazz home record is what is that 29-12 because the air is thinner in Utah, air is thinner in Denver. So it's just harder places to play, and that'll be like the whole series in a sense. But yeah, I think Donovan Mitchell is a decent point guard. He's borderline perennial all star with the numbers he can put up, and yeah, they have more depth than the Nuggets as well. I just think the Jokic train has to slow down. I don't think he can go through the full playoffs beating teams.
I agree with you. I think if it does end up being a Utah Denver Western Conference Finals, I would have Utah coming out of that series and going on to the finals. It just goes back to my shortcomings with Denver. I think they're just this year is too it's too hard for them. Even if Jokic somehow manages to get this far, he will be spent and he'll have
Yep.
nothing left in the tank. And then to go against a guy like Gobert, who is going to cause him problems. Jokic has done actually surprisingly well against Gobert historically. He figures out ways to score in the mid range.
Hmm.
He's a good shooter in the mid range too. So he's done well, but it's going to take too much out of him, and he's going to have to get help. And I just don't think there's enough help on that roster to help him get all the way to the finals. So I would have Utah coming out, especially with Utah being a deeper team. They have multiple pieces on offense they can rely on in
Yep.
terms of Mike Conley, Bojan Bogdanovic, Donovan Mitchell. Like they got pieces over there that they can take turns and relieve pressure off of each other and take. I mean, you can almost like get Donovan Mitchell breaks mid like while he's in the game by just letting Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert run a pick and roll, or Bogdanovic run a pick and roll with
Hmm.
Gobert or whatever it is. So Utah's just got way more talent up and down that roster than Denver does right now, as
The
currently
only
is.
thing with Denver I want to shout them out for is like they haven't had Jamal Murray all year, basically Michael Porter Jr. all year.
Yep.
We always shit on the roster for them being a bunch of nobodies, but that's what they've rolled with all year long. Nothing's really changed. You know what I mean? Like this is their team. They probably known that's their team, and they've at least been able to play with each other for like 70, 75 games. All those guys.
Right.
So they'll
Right.
Mike Malone and they'll be ready. It
They
won't
will
be
be
like
ready.
what are we gonna
I,
do?
I agree, and I think Mike Malone's a good coach too. They'll be ready, but they're gonna run into a team, whether that's Utah or somebody else, that just has more than them. And there's so at the end of the day, the talent is what's gonna win. If the talent gap is big enough, that talent's gonna win. So I think in this case, the talent gap is big enough, and I would have Utah moving on
Yep.
as well, going to the final. Okay, so then we'll do my side of the bracket now. I have Phoenix versus Memphis.
Hmm.
And this is
This
where the
should be
Cinderella
interesting.
story. This is where the Cinderella story comes to an end. Phoenix wins in six. Memphis is still a little bit too inexperienced to deal with this type of spotlight and pressure, and going against a guy as smart as Chris Paul. John Morant's gonna have to learn some things going up against a guy as savvy, like going up against a point guard like Chris Paul. So it's going to be a great learning experience for Memphis. And usually, when teams are on this championship trajectory, the way I think Memphis is for the future, it doesn't happen overnight. It's usually like even looking at Golden State and sort of their trajectory, they lost in the first round, I think. Then they came back and lost. They made a deeper playoff run and then lost, and then they cracked up and went through all the way to the finals and won, I think, in 2015. Yeah, 2015. Memphis is going to be on the similar trajectory. They had their first round exit last year. They got deeper this year, made it pretty far, ran into a juggernaut of a team that's Phoenix, which is pretty much just better than it's like Memphis on steroids.
Yep.
Um, Phoenix is a better team. They have the guys, they have the philosophy, they have length inside in terms of Aiden, who can help guard the paint. They have Mikal Bridges, who they can put on jaw. That's length, quickness,
Hmm.
that'll make Jaw's life a little bit more difficult. You have Chris Paul, who's smart enough, savvy enough to guard a guy like Jaw, or at least force him to where he wants him to go. Maybe not quick enough to stay in front of him independently as a one-on-one defender, but as part of a team defensive scheme, Chris Paul's always been a great defender using his IQ. This is where Memphis will run into trouble, where the ancillary pieces will matter more, and Phoenix just has the better pieces. So I have Phoenix winning in six. Great learning experience for Memphis. It'll help them down the line to go through a series this deep into the playoffs against a team like Memphis, but they're just not ready. And Phoenix looks like a team on a mission, especially after falling short last year and the improvements they've made this year up and down that roster. Literally just internal improvements. They didn't really go out and get any other pieces. They just got better internally, more continuity.
Hmm.
Uh, Mikal Bridges took a step forward. DeAndre Ayton looks a little bit better. Devin Booker looks like I mean, I don't think he's an MVP candidate, but people have him moving into that MVP discussion type level. So all that improvement, it's going to be too much for Memphis. Phoenix moves on for a rematch of the NBA Finals, where I have Phoenix and Milwaukee. You have Utah and Milwaukee, right?
Yes.
So we could do yours first. Who do you got winning? Utah and Milwaukee. If this is not Milwaukee, Gabe,
It's Milwaukee. Don't worry about that. Milwaukee in five.
Okay, so they win pretty easily.
Yeah, I
Is
think
this
Milwaukee.
the Giannis factor?
It is, but I think Milwaukee. Like if you think about it, they are completely healthy this year.
Yep.
They've
I mean,
let's be honest. They messed around with
Brook
the
Lopez
regular
is back,
season.
right?
Hmm?
Brook Lopez is back.
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have the size to compete with anybody. They have arguably the best player on the court to compete with
Oh, they do
anybody.
have the best player on the court in every series. Doesn't
Yep,
matter who they're
unless it
playing.
was Jokic, maybe you never know. But
Unless it's Jokic, yeah.
but yeah, they
He's
do have the best
legit.
player in the court. Um, I don't know what else to really say. Like, I don't think the West is that strong, to be honest. And I think Milwaukee, like we've talked about Giannis before on GOAT trajectory and stuff like that. Like he is just peaking at the right time. You mentioned he is miles better than everybody as a defensive player. Should win Defensive Player of the Year. Guy's still putting up potentially scoring champion like numbers, like almost averaging 30 a game. He's the complete package right now, and I
He's
think like
built like a
this is his NBA
superhuman.
right now.
He's built like a Greek god. Like dude is like injury free, recovers like a machine. He's like a young LeBron. He's literally what young LeBron was.
But better. He's got the longer reach, more size.
Yeah, physically more imposing, I would argue.
Like
Yes.
if you were creating a player on 2K, like he has like all the sliders, like 7 feet tall almost. Yeah, has like long reach, long this, perfect shape. Um,
Yeah.
and he has the better roster than LeBron ever had in the East. So
Yeah. So for me, on my side of the bracket, it's Phoenix and Milwaukee. And like you, I have Milwaukee winning, but I have it in 7 games. It's going to be a finals for the ages, another rematch. I think Phoenix is hungrier this year. They learned from their mistakes from last year, but they fall short to the Greek god Giannis. Um, Giannis is even more improved this year than he was last year, and I just can't like
well, the
Mikal
thing
Bridges
is,
is
we
too
thought
small.
Giannis was so good last year, anyways, in the regular season, and
Yeah,
then in that final series, like he went God
berserk.
mode, dropped a 50
God
p.
mode,
Like
yeah.
I think there's much more to see still if they need to unleash him.
I agree, and I think Giannis can taste like his legacy in the deeper they get into playoffs, the more motivated Giannis will become because he gets closer and closer to cementing himself as what I think is a top 10 player all time if he wins this playoffs if he wins the championship this year. You're talking about a two-time MVP, defensive player of the year at 26 or 27 years old, however old he is,
Yeah,
averaging 30, 12 and like 5 or 6 a game on elite efficiency, back-to-back finals MVPs. He would be the finals MVP if they won this year. Like he can just taste his legacy and he would be so close to cementing himself as top 10 all time if he can win that I think he gets more and more motivated and you just see him go into another gear in the finals. I actually think he kind of coasted during the regular season. Like
they definitely did.
even putting up the numbers that he put up and then Milwaukee themselves being the champions from last year, they were like, okay, let's get a decent seed in the East, let's make it to the playoffs, and then they're going to flip a switch. They're going to do what they need to do to get back to where they were last year. And
Hmm.
I think Phoenix puts up a better fight this year in the playoffs. Phoenix took the first 2 games last year, which
They put
kind
up
of
a really good fight last year. Like they were
they
competitive in every single game.
in every game, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think Phoenix makes it even closer this year, winning 3 games in that series. But
yeah.
I think the Giannis factor is a little too much. Maybe we're overrating Giannis. I don't know, but I think he's just gonna will Milwaukee in that series to a win. It'll be a great finals this year, but Giannis goes back to back, Milwaukee goes back to back, and we have Milwaukee Bucks as the 2022 NBA champions, and that is our playoff prediction
That's a wrap.